Clap for Coach Herring. 1, 2, 3. Everybody together now. Come on, some of you guys are sliding. On 3. 1, 2, 3. And Coach Chris. 1, 2, 3. Okay, remember, nobody sits on the bench tonight. Everybody has to be ready to play. Paul, is that Hassler you were calling on, Coach?
I never worked at camp with them, man.
Snake? We had a few beers together. We never. I couldn't remember that. I didn't, there's a lot of things I don't remember about lineman's camp when I was down here. How many guys did work at the line camp? Let me just see the hands. How many guys remember the line camp? How many guys attended the line camp as a lineman? Quite a few did. I know I was talking to Tom Osteen was there. How many years, Tom?
Oh, I don't know. Can't count like that.
Yeah, that's tough. These are tough questions tonight. Okay, first of all, let me explain why I'm here. The message came to me, Coach Herring said, we got this reunion coming up, and I really want to do something special for the 1992 team. Then he said, and I would like to also do something special for Coach Chris, because he's a man who stepped in a very difficult position and pulled this all together. You fellows went on to be, your team went on to be the national champions. And in the comments that you made, that you sent back to me, what was very touching to me is how this same theme continued from Coach Herring. There was very little change when Coach Chris took over. You just kept doing the same kinds of things the right way. So then when Raj talked to me, I thought, gee, it'd be kind of neat to put together a questionnaire and send it out to the fellows and see how they respond to this questionnaire. So the program, once we get into it here tonight, will be essentially what you wrote back to me. Now, I sent out 92 questionnaires. We received 38 back. That isn't too bad. In fact, I think that's just a little better than the people replied to my daughter's wedding. So, and then we had some address. Like, we couldn't find Ben Murray. Nobody knew where he was. Where's Ben? We kept sending things to Beaver Dam. Nobody would forward it. We didn't have any. Where's Ben? Right here. Ben, here's it. Now, when you give all this money to the university, include your right address so that they can contact you. So there's situations like that where maybe you just didn't get a form to fill out. Lacrosse is very special to me because in 1991, I appeared on campus. I had a math teacher tell me, Tyler, if you ever graduate from college, it'll be a miracle. Well, 1961. 1961, sorry, Chris, keep me straight. We do have an audible system tonight. So anytime somebody says something that doesn't make sense, just say, what was that again? And so let us know if you'd like to see something again, let us know. The live color is red. Okay, red. So Chris, you should yell out red. I didn't tell you that, you didn't know the live color. Red, and then we'll give you the attention. Now, however, 2, the live color will be what? White, very good. And it's on 3, it's blue. Red, white, or blue. Very good. All right. So in 1991, I was here back in lineman's camp, but in 1961, I was here as a student. The next year, something very significant happened. I met this beautiful woman, my wife, Holly. And I would like to understand for just a minute. Married right here at the Newman Chapel on campus. We had a little disagreement on our wedding plans. She wanted just a small wedding. I didn't want to get married at all. But we've had 34 happy years together. We just celebrated our 36th anniversary. Any coaches' wives out there? Coaches' wives, can I see the hands? We have a number of guys who are coaching.
Nancy, put the hand
Get
up.
those hands up. There you go. Right. Here's the key. Guys, when I come home from a hard time in practice, really bushed and tired, my wife would always have my slippers, my robe, and hot water waiting for me when I got home. That's the key. Of course, she didn't like having her dishes in cold water. Okay, well, what kind of student was I, Norris? I'll tell you, 4-point student my first year. Had a 1.8 first semester, second semester I had 2.2. Then finally they brought they brought me back and said, Bill, we're going to put you on probation. And I had 2 senior years, which is really kind of neat because I got to play football 2 years as a senior. Coach Anderson, you want to back away from the pizza a little bit? Good to see you, buddy. Coach Terry, here yet? Coach Terry, when he comes in, let me know. How about that game, huh, guys? 1, 2, 3. Hey, but a lot of things have changed since the 60s. So we're not going to dwell on the 60s. We're going to move up to 1992. But I do have to wax nostalgic for just a minute. Those were the days when you logged on, you threw another log in the fire. And when you downloaded, you unloaded the pickup truck. When you had megahertz, that was from downloading. Modem, that's what you did to the hayfields. Microchips, that's what was left over after the big chips were gone. Floppy disk, soggy pizza. And software, of course, was a number 2 pencil. So things have really changed since the 1960s. The big question I have right now, do we have any touchdown cookies here? Touchdown cookies? End zone cookies, they were called? End zone cookies. Excuse me. Thank you for the red. Very good. Stand. Caroline's here all the way from where, Caroline? Stand up for a minute. Would you please take a bow? Say a few words. I sat behind this lady at a game. I think it was the Mount Union game, what game it was, but I was sitting right behind her. Let me tell you this. I'm very pleased I wasn't sitting in front of her. Couple thoughts. Those end zone cookies.
Well, I didn't give Coach Chris an end zone cookie because he can't have them. Laura, I didn't. Okay. Because he can't have them anymore. But there are end zone cookies over there. So, and it was a lot of fun.
Red.
You don't need to lie for me, Carol. I did have one cookie.
He's messing up, so I can tell you again. Sorry, Laura, but it was only one M&M cookie. No, it was only. I swear to God, it was only one. Only one, unless you got one after I put the box down. It's really fun being back and talking to all of you and your parents. It was a great time that year, and I don't have any voice now because I was yelling for the current team. But there wasn't anybody in the row ahead of me either. So, but it's great to be back. It's great to see all of you. It's great to see your families that you started and your parents that are here. And it's a year that I had to go back and look at all the videos again before I could come. So it was a lot of fun, and it's good to see you all.
Hey, how about that? 1, 2, 3. Very good, yes. Now, if you look at your program, the times on there are just an estimate. See, this is supposed to be set up like a human clock. So sometimes you have overtimes, and sometimes there may be a delay of game. You never know. So we're going to be a little flexible. This is just like a game tonight. If you have to leave, go to the restroom, fine. At your own risk, however. We're not stopping anything for you. The game will go on. Red. Coach Terry!
I don't want to interrupt you, Coach. Keep going.
John Yankee called the audible. Red, did you hear the red? Did you miss the audible, Coach? Hey, it's up to you, buddy, and congratulations on that big win. Terrific.
Hi guys, it's great to see you all here. What a great day for us. As you guys well know, it takes games like you saw today to win championships. You guys were in a bunch of them, and you have a lot to be proud of. I think our guys today have a lot to be proud of. I hope you have a great time tonight. I sure have a lot of fond memories of all you guys. It's great to see you, and I'm sure we'll chat a lot tonight, but it's great to see you. Have a great time tonight, and please come back and make sure you say hi to me tonight before you go.
Terrific, still have a voice, too, Coach. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Coach Terry. Second page on your program. The These were the people whose wives really got after them and said, send back that questionnaire. Now, John Jenke was, I think, the first one that came in. Where's John? Right there. First one came back right away. Jason, I didn't get back. I had to send him a second notice. Tried to put a little pressure on. Where's Jason? Yeah, that's exactly. I said, your brother got his back right away. I said, he's an administrator. All he can do is sit around and fill out surveys. Okay. So we'll let you off the hook on that one. You did get it in, and I appreciate that. But then, this is the information we're going to be dealing with tonight in the program. Now, I thought it was kind of neat to look at the present occupation of these people also. And it's kind of like a class reunion. I just had my 40th class reunion, and you fudge a little bit. I give you, if you're working the sewer, you don't put on there. I work in the sewer, you put on, I'm the superintendent of subterranean sanitation. You know, something like that. So as I was looking at a few of these, here's a guy who's a CPA, Jim Anthony, where's he? Jim Anthony, oh, there he is, okay, CPA, right. So he's in the clothing business, right? Cleaning, pressing, alteration. Gotta figure some of these things out. Where's Trent? Trent Bloomer. Farmer, the salt of the earth. See, he's out milking those cows while you guys are playing around. Price the motion. Contractor, Mike Bright. Where's Mike? He's a hitman, you know. Here's one that go down a little farther. Tim Haven. Where's Tim? Tim Haven, did I say that right? Hobbin. If I mispronounce the name correctly. Okay. I coach some John Jenke. It's a year pronounced Jenke, and I coach him Yankees. See, so if I mess it up, right? Tim, what does it say for Tim? Information Systems Administrator. He's a greeter at Walmart. Brett Harper, there's another one. Get rid of it. Applications Technical Support. He's a mechanic. Rich Jackmar. Rich. Yes. Did I say that right?
Pretty good.
Okay, we'll sell that. Bond trader. It's not about bears and bulls anymore, is it? It's about bum steers over there. Okay. I wouldn't talk to him. Stay away from that guy. You know, I did some market. Jason, what do you teach, Jason?
U.S. history.
History teacher, like Coach Scholar. Let's see, how many years have you taught history? How many years?
4.
Okay, let's see if you know the answers. These are some I got from my students. Honest to God. Why did Lincoln give the Gettysburg Address? Oh, here it is. He didn't want anyone to know his real address. 2 houses of Congress, Capitol and the White House. Think about it. Here's my favorite. What changes took place during the Industrial Revolution? People quit reproducing by hand and started reproducing by machine. True. And who developed the polio vaccine? Marco Polio. And then, of course, there's Malcolm X and World War XI. Well, let's go on here. Think about that one, World War XI. Going down, yeah. Andrew Koloff. Andy here? Andy Koloff? Oogie. I didn't mean Oogie. Oogie, huh? Let's get my Oogie. Wisconsin Department of Corrections. You work inside or outside? Greg Natyshak.
Yeah.
Out.
Out.
Benefits Administrator. Last night, he was keeping the economy of Crosse going at the Alpine, a few of those guys. Benefits. Okay, and Tom Osteen. He's undercover. Right here, right? You're a deputy with the LAPD?
Los Angeles County.
With Los Angeles County?
Sheriff's Department.
So careful what you say around him. I know. Jeremy Richter, graphic designer. I don't even want to go into that. Then we have Norris Thomas. How about this? Professional speaker and a mortgage banker. In other words, he talks people into loans he can't afford. What a rich group we have here. Now, next page. These are the results of the questionnaire. There were just 2 things I was so moved by, sincerely, that I had to type these out. And I typed this with my own very fingers. I use a Columbus Day today, right? The Columbus method where you discover a key and land on it. You know, so I put this all together, all on my own. And what was the greatest lesson you learned about life through playing football for Coach Herring and living with Crosse? Take some time to read that on your own. There's some tremendous things in there. And then, of course, Coach Herring said, hey, let's do something. I want to feature Coach Chris a bit. And the last question, the things that you said about Coach Chris and that made him, in your opinion, so successful for so many years. So you can read those on your own. And again, I'm just thrilled to be back in lacrosse. He's such a great game. Let's go back to the program. I do want to recognize Dave Bauer. Where's Dave Bauer? Would you stand up, Dave? Dave is in Seymour, and he has helped me out, put this together, and he helped fill me in on a lot of things. So let's give the big center a clap. 1, 2, 3. Very good. Holly, how we doing? He told me don't keep it moving when I didn't talk too much. So these guys don't want to know about you, they want to know about 92. All right, here we are. Let's go back to 1992 and those memories. Before I do that, though, guys, I need a disclaimer. Because there's some things that are going to come up, and I just want to mention the contents of this program represent the comments of members of the 1992 Lacrosse Eagle National Championship team. Any disparaging or fabricated remarks must be attributed to the said player responsible. Every effort has been made to maintain a high moral standard that reflects the veracity of the interviewee. Quotations may have been altered to conform to acceptable standards of decency. With the passage of time, slight variations from the actual event may be recalled. Bill Collar of PMA Associates will be held harmless and absolved of any legal liability for the contents of said program. And again, my firm up there, my attorneys, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. And I want you to know that Stan Davis is a junior partner. And that's why he's driving that Jaguar. We'll get into that later. So, now, I'm from Seymour. I was the head football coach there for 29 years. Dave Bauer's now at Seymour. I thought I should tell you just a little bit more about myself, Norris, and Seymour. And Seymour is known as the home of the hamburger. You see, we claimed that back in 1885. There's a guy selling meatballs at the fair, and people weren't buying meatballs, so we smashed it between 2 pieces of bread, called it the hamburger. Well, and every year we have a big festival. Now, this is the world's largest hamburger, and it's 8,266 pounds. And you might wonder, how did they flip it over? They didn't flip it, there's just a cover that went on the top of it. 32,000 quarter pounds. That's right, Dave Bauer ate most of it. Okay, so that's a little bit about Seymour. Now, Dave and I were very happy to work at a very modern facility. We're about 15 minutes from Lambeau Field. Our principal there, just an outstanding individual who's been around for some time. Great guy, a little eccentric sometimes, so here he is coming to work. Seymour it's kind of a rural area. I'd say about 70% of the kids live out in the country. And it's a real challenge to get these boys motivated and fired up because the last couple of years have been tough on the economy in the area. A lot of kids will ride the school bus, some of them drive their own cars to school. That causes some problems. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured. We don't have a lot of discipline problems in our high school, and John Janke might want to write this down when you get up to the big city, because we don't mess around with things like detention. We let our kids know that we really mean business. I guess your school is only as good as the people who work there. I like to get in and see our guidance counselor once in a while. She's just a great gal. And if you're going to have great athletic teams, you have to have dynamic, enthusiastic people working with your cheerleaders, your bomb squad, and so on. We have 2 ladies in the English department, just outstanding individuals. They've been at Seymour for some time, but when they get up in front of a pep rally, let me tell you, they can really fire up the student body. Great job. Then I have a dynamic band director also. I think that's very important. I got to do a good job. And of course, who really knows what's going on around school? Not the principal, but you've got it right. Very good, Chris. Chris Smith. 1, 2, 3. Get with it. Okay, here we go. And our head custodian, Earl, he's been at Seymour for terrific guy. People say, Bill, what are you doing now with your retirement? You know, years ago, and Rick Schaff, I think you know this, years ago I competed as a bodybuilder. And of course, you get older, you don't need all that bulk anymore, so I lost some weight, trimmed down a little bit, and then running down marathons and triathlons, things like that. And then I try to go exclusively into follically impaired triathlons. And here I'm running out in California at some of the town competition. Jesse Ventura, there I beat him. I finished ahead of Terry Bradshaw. And of course, Curly, not a bad runner either. But who would think that Don Rickles was that fast? So that's a little bit about Seymour, and just some of the things that I've been doing the last several years now that I've been retired. So what we're talking about, hey, the big thing we want to do tonight is have some fun, right? I think it was Socrates, wasn't it, who said, the unexamined life is hardly worth living, but a life without humor is hardly worth examining. See, if you don't know who said something, always say it was either Socrates or Mark Twain, because they said just about everything, all right? So we're going to have some fun tonight, that's the big thing, and we're going to build on this old lacrosse concept of keeping a positive attitude. You know, instead of seeing barriers in our life, we see hurdles. Instead of obstacles, opportunities. Instead of problems, solutions. And that's kind of the way the team was, wasn't it, in 1992? Let's go back. Did I say 92? You bet, 92. Let's go back 30 years to 1962. Bill Collar broke his ankle as a freshman, came back as a sophomore. We had 50 uniforms for the players. That was 99 on the depth chart. So what do they do the first couple of days? They run all these drills to cut everybody, okay? So I was about the 49th or 50th guy, ended up with those thigh pads, corrugated cardboard. That's what it was back then. And a helmet you could spin around your head. Those suspension helmets, you guys don't remember those. You always had a brad right in the middle of your forehead, so when you hit somebody, it'd drill you in the forehead and the blood would come running down your nose. But anyway, I remember this game, I'm going downfield, downfield, black guy hits me in the middle of the thigh, I go down. We're down in northern Illinois, I'm rolling, I'm in pain, I look down at my leg, sure enough, my bone is sticking right up into the fabric there, and I knew I got a compound fracture. They carried me off the field. I'm on the sideline, the trainer comes over, snaps my thigh pad back into place and just sprung it inside out. And he said, hey, you can go back in the game. Quite frankly, I was kind of disappointed because we're getting pretty good. Well, then at that year, 1962, Holly, keep me straight on that. That's my wife, Holly. We have a great time around Christmas. Okay, here we go. I met this individual in 1962. There he is. Does anybody recognize him? Coach Chris.
Yeah.
Coach Chris was my offensive line coach in 1962. I also coached baseball, by the way. Multi-talented guy. Now notice, first thing he said to me, Kyle, your hair's too long. And notice the influence. Now look at my picture before I had the Coach Chris influence. And we had the season, 63, 64, 65, my second senior year. Notice the change. After a while, you start to look like him, don't you? It just happens. And my ears are still very. Thank you for pointing that out. But notice the scab right in the middle of the forehead. Notice that brad from that helmet. You go and say to your coach, it really hurts right about. Just keep hitting people. Oh, okay. Well, a lot of things happened then, and Chris taught us how to tackle. That was the big thing. He'd say, you really got to come in hard and make sure you leave your feet when you hit somebody. And I thought, did he change his technique any? So I found some pictures from 1992, and I noticed, by gosh, the guy didn't change his technique very much. Of course, he picked up a lot of these things from Coach Herring. Coach was always on the cutting edge of new developments in football. Here they're performing a very valuable drill, of course. If you look in the background, something you do a lot on the football field. You know, it's the old leapfrog thing. And that was then I came back to lacrosse as a coach, 1968, and this was our staff at 69. Can you recognize anyone? Coach Chris? Now notice there's his twin, Coach Collar. Coach Herring.
Yeah.
Who's that? Coach Shocknell. Is Coach Shocknell here?
There he is.
Yeah.
Looks about the same, doesn't he? Here he goes. Good job, that's second half. Hey, Coach, I said if we go into overtime, we're going to win this game. I know it. So we're wearing them.
I told that the officials after I came in about $100.
And who's this in the middle? Bill and Terry, Coach Terry's dad. I think they're starting to look more like each other all the time. That other fellow up there, we're not going to worry about him. So that was the first conference championship, co-championship with Coach Herring over there. And of course, sitting right next to Coach Chris, over there we have Coach Connor, looking just like Coach Chris. And behind him is Coach Shacknow. So we hung around together, as you can see. Now, we're going to get into the survey. The first question on the survey was, list 2 or 3 key reasons why your team won the national championship. I don't know if some guys didn't take this serious, or some guys, had a problem, but one person wrote down, and again, this is what they wrote down. Shower time. I don't want to go there. Let a few people write down hydration. Hydration was real big. Notice I had that in the program, so make sure you hydrate as the program goes on. And we had a couple of people with, we scored more points than some of those defensive linemen. And then we had everyone must have been a defensive back. It's 3 o'clock. Jason Gagnon. Where's Jason? What do you think was the key of those 4 things?
Hydration.
That's definitely. It definitely was. It came up again and again. Jason Janke, would you agree? Hydration. And of course, that was the most common thing. Now, I understand there was a little story that Dave Bauer shared with me about your head athletic trainer. Is he here? Pat? But he was really into hydration, right? Well, I just want to destroy a myth. You can overdo it with this hydrating thing. So you don't want to get overhydrated either. I know right now everybody's talking about drinking water. That can cause just so you're aware of that. So let's get back to some of the more serious comments. Great attitude. 3 people said that. 3 people said a little luck. 4 people, excellent conditioning. Lacrosse tradition and pride. Confidence, belief, trust. 9 people just said hard work. 10, talented players. 11, leadership by players and coaches. 19 said great coaching. 34 people of your team, out of the 38 who responded, of course some said more than one thing, they mentioned team unity and togetherness. And really, that was the key, as you know, to that squad. Well, now when we take those 4 things, and we look at them and we focus in on team unity and togetherness, and we take a look at that team, a little bit different picture than the one we had up there earlier. I thought, wouldn't it be brilliant? Wouldn't it be a great idea? Wouldn't it be just fantastic to invite one of the players back? He's a brilliant individual, very articulate, and a dynamic speaker. But he couldn't make it. So instead we have Stan Davis. Stan, as you know, is a practicing attorney. Now the question I have, Stan, is when do you guys quit practicing and really get down to the real stuff? So Stan, would you come on up, please? Come on down. And we've been picking on Stan a little bit, but we know he's a great guy, and we really appreciate you volunteering to say a few words. We asked him to talk a little bit about this concept of team unity. Get out of here.
I'm just glad to have the mic so no one else can insult me while I'm up here. Before I start saying anything, I want to, Janie, come in here, please. Come on.
Come on, Spencer.
Janie Spencer is the person who put this together. I'm starting to become convinced that there was actually more than one of her because she does this for all the groups. And she did a great job putting this together. It's been a great day. And I just want us to thank her with a clap. 1, 2, 3. Thanks, Janie. Also, Matt Anderson and Coach Herring. We were kind of the planning committee for this, so appreciate the efforts of those guys as well. It's been a great day, been great to see everyone. The thing that I think about as far as it says on the program, lacrosse lessons and lessons learned and life lessons, what I took away from the experience here was always expect to have excellence and success. And if you bring that into everything that you do, you're halfway there already. Coach Herring used to always say, what the mind believes the body can achieve. And if you take that with you, and every new task that you go into, if you think you're going to be successful and believe that you will, you're almost there. I'm thinking back to the Whitewater game our junior year that we lost, and I was telling Coach Herring or Coach Crosse last time I saw him, I was just shocked when we lost it because I really didn't think we could lose at home. I just had gotten to the point over the years that we just didn't do that, and I almost was in disbelief when it happened. Although that was a bad day, that attitude, I think, is what made us be the type of team that we were, because whenever things got tough, we always just cranked it up a little bit and got the job done. And translating that to life, if you bring those things into your daily life, you're going to have success. Other than that, just the standard things that you take with you, being able to work with other people. I've worked with folks who, when things get a little tough, they melt down. And I know that from some of the things that we went through when we're out there, there's not much tougher than being out there when it's 16 below with Mount Union and guys tossing the ball all over the place. And to be able to pull that out and move on to the next week. The last thing I want to say is, about Coach Herring, and I'm glad to have a public forum to say this. I've wanted to say it for a while. Dealing with the idea of Coach Herring not being there for the second part of the season. I remember we got back from Florida and I heard some misinformed people say, well, this shows that Coach Herring didn't really have anything to do with the team, and it's just unbelievable how wrong that is. The real test of a leader is how his men perform when he's not there. How well he's prepared them to step up and take on the task if he's not there. I went to military school for high school and was in charge of a company of students, and the biggest test that I had was when they came on the drill field and said, you're gone. And my guys had to step up. And the way that the coaching staff and the players stepped up in '92 is really, it's all about the job that Coach Herring did. The ability to put ego aside and let other people do the work at times so that they're prepared when they need to step up. So I'm just glad to have a public forum to say that. And it's really true to Coach and to Coach Chris and everyone that stepped up. So if you take the lessons So guys, just take the stuff we learned here, go out from looking at the list, despite some of the creative names that Coach Collard pointed out, everyone seems to be doing great things and doing really well. Keep it up, and let's do this again in 5 years or next year.
Stay right there, Stan. What do you think, folks? You're looking good. Thank you very much. Well stated. Let's give him a big clap. 1, 2, 3. That's it. And Stan, thank you so much for recognizing Janie Spencer and the great job the alumni organization does. I'd also like to recognize another outstanding group, and that's our quarterback club. I've been a member of the quarterback club, even though when I was coaching, it was very difficult to get to more than one game a year. I'd usually take in the Point game, or I'd take in the Oshkosh game in our area. It was a long way over, but one thing I always did, I figured if I'm going to give any money to the university, and as you get older you can give a little more. I know how tough it is when you got all the little kids and so on, but I always joined the quarterback club. And one thing I knew where the money was going. It was going to be spent on lacrosse football, and that was very, very dear to me. So think about that. If you're not a member, do we have a representative of the quarterback club here?
Yep.
Jim Geiser, right over here. I didn't see you over there, Jim. But what do they have to do, Jim, if they'd like to join the quarterback club? We used to study together in college, Jim and I. Talk to him after. Can I tell him about the Mount Union game?
Yes, please.
We're at the Mount Union game. Jim Geiser, who just loves lacrosse football. He's now the president of the quarterback club. Bill Collar, and our Vietnam veteran buddy, Mike McQuinn. Does anybody know Mike? Mike is a double amputee. He's got 2 artificial legs on. So we're up in the game, and it's cold. It's cold. And Geiser was kind of whipping out a little bit, and the game went on and on. he said, you know, and we warmed up down to Howie's, you know, we warmed up at Howie's. He said, maybe we could go down to Howie's and watch the rest of the game on TV. And Mike McQuinn, the old veteran, he looks at guys and he said, hey, because Jim was complaining that his toes were getting cold and so on. McQuinn said, nobody leaves here till my toes get cold. He stayed for the duration. Would our present coaching staff stand up? We saw Coach Andy back there, Coach Schocknell. Would you fellas stand up? Who's ever here? Okay.
Andy,
Coach,
stand up.
Coach Terry, anyone else I didn't recognize?
Some of them are here just a little bit ago, Coach, and they had to do another party too, so.
You got them preparing for the next game.
There you go.
Okay, well, tell them I'm sorry if I slighted them to begin with there, but we're going to move on. Thanks, Coach. Let's give them a clap. 1, 2, 3. Where are we going from here? Well, let's see. Let's stay with the greatest lessons. I think this was kind of fun, just to read through some of these. The answer to this could be a book publication. The greatest lesson of the 1992 season for me was never, never, ever take anything for granted, especially life. Football is a game of dedication and commitment, just like Stan was talking about. Life is the same. You have to be dedicated to yourself, your family, and teammates. The one time you let your guard down is the time you're going to get it. Coach Herring is a very successful man who has made an important impact on lives, a lot of lives, including myself. Brett Harper, what a nice statement to make, Brett. And I certainly hope you guys don't mind if I share a few of these because I just think they're very touching. So lacrosse football is all about. Too many to list. You learn a lot about your, let's try it again. Too many to list. You learn a lot about yourself, trying to compete against all the great players they had in those years. You learn a lot about hard work, perseverance, teamwork, discipline, and the list goes on. I really enjoyed the experience, even though I was never a big contributor on game day. Jason Darren, who couldn't be. So it's about teamwork. You fellas had some great experiences and continue to live your life with that lacrosse experience in mind. Coach would teach the importance of family. He would end practices stating how important it is to tell your parents and family how much you love them and what they mean to you. His family is the most important philosophy carried over to the football field. Those guys were the family, and Coach helped instill that strong foundation of loyalty and support and being able to depend on family. Craig Dreesen. Bucky, is that right? Family. This is Coach's retirement present, of course, instead of a Mercedes or Jaguar. The bike. Now, a lot of you aren't aware of this, but in his retirement, Coach has been asked by the George W. Bush administration to consider an ambassadorship to Germany. And I think he'd make a fine ambassador. Ambassador Herring, what do you think? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, looking good, Coach. Couple more lessons about life. The team taught me what winning was all about. There were some excellent athletes who were even better individuals. The upperclassmen helped the underclassmen learn the game of football, but more importantly, they led by example as they taught how to be outstanding gentlemen. Once again, Craig Dreesen. I thought that was a nice statement. There are some of those upperclassmen that really pitched in to help Bucky out. Huh? Is Brad Pellegrino here? He didn't know if he could make it. I think he had another commitment. Okay. Working hard and working as a team and having fun in the process, I guess that I could say I learned that working hard pays off, but you need to take time to enjoy everything around you, teammates, family, and nature. Coach Herring would point out how beautiful the bluffs were. You know, as you get older, you notice those guys. How many of you, as you were sitting in the stands today, you looked over and you saw the sun when it came out, reflecting off those colors of the bluff, and you actually thought, my God, that is beautiful. But raise your hand. Let me see it out there. I know, Rick Shep, you haven't gotten to that point yet in your life. We're going to work with you on that. Every time I come back to La Crosse, it just strikes me just what a beautiful, beautiful city this is and a fantastic area. You know, Coach Herring, we want to thank you for that, pointing out not only the importance of doing your best, but family and the beauty in nature. Matt Anderson. Where's Matt? Very perceptive.
Miss about California.
Sometimes there's a little mist up there, isn't there? Yes. Your initial reaction to Coach Herring's hospitalization. Well, of course, the guys were shocked. They're in disbelief. uncertainty. What's going to happen now? My initial reaction was obviously what happened and was he all right? Everyone showed concern for your family. Our leader took a great hit, a direct hit I should say. As a team we came together to support and increase our level of play to make up for what happened to Coach. I asked Coach Chris what he thought was the difference in that year and he said, you know, I'm sure part of it was all the guys wanted to prove to Coach Herring that they could do it. And so even though Coach wasn't there, he was there. I can remember the first team practice and how everyone was in a somber mood and I could tell the mood of the team had changed. Coach Chris brought the team together at the completion of practice and gave an in-depth speech on the situation. And many of you found out that Coach Chris was quite an eloquent speaker. That came out numerous times throughout the survey. To make a long story short, the following practice, the mood of the team changed from somber to a new level of intensity. It was 100% switch from sadness and worrying to motivation and focus. Just a few of the other comments. Now we'll see if the program is as strong as everyone thought. He will be back. How can we adapt and overcome to make the coach proud of us? He was a key motivator. What will we do now? No fear, Coach Chris is here. What's he thinking right here? Coach Terry, you call what?
Loosen the butt cheeks.
And of course, Coach Chris' teams were known for that hard-hitting defense. I had a couple guys comment, will we ever practice offense? Once Coach Chris became the head coach. One of the keys to that defense, Mike Bright. Now Mike, we said is a contractor. You might wonder how you go, I'm sorry, that jumped ahead. We're going to get back to that one. As long as I'm there, some of you think Coach Chris always had a crew cut? Coach Chris in his younger years. How about that, huh? Let's go back to Mike Bright, the crew cut. There's a lot of commonalities between being a contractor and being a football player. When you really think about it, you're in the trenches. Okay? You're going to go out and really hammer them. Football term for the guys. He's a real stud. Well, contractors work with studs. Rip, wrap, snap. Contractors' terms. You know? Same type of thing when we're tackling. Framing up, right? You gotta frame it up. So we're going to ask Mike to come up and talk just a little bit about Coach Chris and lacrosse football. Mike Bryant. Tell me when Mike was a kid, he was so tough that his parents had to hang a pork chop around his neck just to get the dog to play with him.
I'm going to use the podium because I like talking with my hands more, and I got to try to hold on to this paper also. A month and a half ago, when Bill I had talked to Bill about this event, you know, I thought, well, I'd like to get up and just talk and just shoot from the hip. You know, talk about Coach Chris and what he meant to me and to the university. But I got to put it on paper because I just don't want to miss it. So bear with me. I started looking through the old scrapbook. Just so happened Roger called me one evening when I was looking through the scrapbook to see if I could find anything about Coach Chris. Whether it be a quote, you know, his famous one-liners, or a picture, something that would bring back a memory about him. And one thing I did come across, I think it was in the playoffs at one time, he had made a comment that this was not the best team that he's ever coached. And I thought, well, whether we were or whether we weren't, I guess it really doesn't matter. But it made me look more into the true meaning behind him and the quote. Okay. So I thought more about the history of Coach Chris and the years that I've been with him. And before every game, Coach Chris would set goals. Okay. The number one thing was to play well and win. But no matter the outcome, there was always some aspect of the game that we could do better. After 3.5 years of the same, I finally realized Coach Chris's idea of a perfect game. Number one, for the opposing team to have minus yards. Number two, that every tackle the defense makes, we push the ball carrier backwards. And number three, if this could ever be possible, to have negative points. Most of my teammates were not around in 1987 when I was a freshman. Norris was with me. You guys do the math. 87 to 92, I've been around for a while. It was my freshman year when the Crosse had probably the worst season in collective memory. We were 500. After that season, Coach Chris addressed us with the ultimatum. We need to have a different attitude or he may not return. So my first year of college, I'm like, looking at Coach Chris thinking, well, I come down here because, he told me that there's going to be opportunity to play, and I didn't know if it was the truth or whether it was just a motivational speech. But since that time, I've had the privilege of playing 3 national championships, and I think a lot of that attributes to that conversation, to that meeting that we had that day. As great as it felt, I can't help but remember the conversation we had a month or so after, winning a championship about retirement. I asked you, you finally have an undefeated season. Is it time to walk away? Your reply, I couldn't expect anything else but this. It was a good season, but there's still more. The way I took it was, there's still room for improvement. So Coach, you may never achieve the perfect game, but you can hold your head high since you have achieved the perfect game in the game of life. You can be proud of what you have accomplished, especially with the boys you have coached, and by the time the 4 years of your guidance has passed, you have created young men with the desire to not settle for second, not only on the football field, but life in general. I can say this because I'm one of those boys. Coach, I have the greatest respect for you as a coach, as a mentor, and especially as a person. What you have instilled in me has become a daily part of my life. Never settling for second best. My wife can attest to it. I may not be as competitive standing here today as I was in 1992, but after putting that ring on my finger, I felt that I had achieved the perfect game. In closing, the Crosse football has a great winning tradition, as it showed today. Without your years of dedication, I can't help but believe all of us here today would be going about our daily routines. Instead, we are here celebrating a national championship and you and your coaching career. Coach Chris, you will forever be the Crosse football's top rock.
And on hold, Coach Chris.
I was afraid I was going to have to go red on Mike's speech, but I don't have to.
Not only can build houses, but you can build a lot of emotion too, let me tell you that. Mike, we all know the intensity that you played the game with, and we appreciate you sharing some very personal and intense thoughts. Kind of reminds me of the old, you guys were at football camp, good, better, best, never let it rest. Your good gets better and your better gets best. And I think Coach Chris, you touched my life in that way also. And Coach Herring, we strive to be the best that we can possibly be. Well, it's about halftime right here, so if anybody needs to take a restroom break or something, feel free to do that, but we're not taking a break. We're going to keep moving until Coach Chris says it's time to take a restroom break. Okay. So on the program, next we have the third quarter, and we're going to move on. Yes, that was Coach Chris as a youngster when he had an inferior haircut. Mike, could you take your hat off, please? How about that, eh? You looking good? You know, I used to say I was going to have a crew cut all my life, and then my crew started bailing out on me. And how many of you realize this? He never talked about it much, but Coach Chris is also a veteran. Let's hear it for him. 1, 2, 3. Yes. Had a nice smiley picture there.
Chucky.
Somebody wrote down, I didn't put this on the program, I just thought I shouldn't really say it in public. And somebody said, hey, he's the same old ornery guy he always was. We have Laura coming up, his wife Laura. Let's have Coach's wife stand. Laura, would you stand with Coach Chris's wife? And his son. And give me a little help with that. Son's name? David. David, would you stand with your wife also, Coach Chris's son? And his wife? Jennifer, okay. And of course, we all know Mary Herring. Nothing changed. We did the same thing we did at Coach Herring. The only thing that changed was that we had to hear more bad jokes from Coach Chris.
Who said that?
Do we need a red?
Seeing a man you could hit in the face with a 2x4 and would not flinch, choke up at his first meeting with us because his good friend and fellow coach was down on his luck. Quite expressive there, and I don't know if he made it, but Andy Strand is coaching up in Rhineline. Is Andy here? Quite a ways to come. He didn't think he could make it. Out of any two people in the world, if Coach Herring was not there, we all knew Coach Chris would know what to do. He kept the team focused and on the right track. Brett Harper. What do you remember most about Coach Chris taking over once again? The mood was lighter with dry humor. He always knew which buttons to press and how to break the tension. His unselfishness. It was not his team, just his time to take the wheel. He kept balance and focus because of the team's dream. It was no big deal. He and Coach Herring were on the same page. I have a lot of respect for Coach Chris. I knew when he took over, we were in good hands. Do you remember any specific sayings, quotes, or statements from Coach Chris? Let me start this off. I still have nightmares waking up in the middle of the night. We had this old 7-man sled. Coach would take the offensive lineman over there. Of course, then we played on a field that was all full of sandburrs, you know, and if you didn't the way you wanted, you give me 5, you know, you got to do a few push-ups and so on. Get those sandburrs in your hands. We were tough back then. You know, with Coach Chris, things come in threes. We all remember juice, 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 right, guys? Chop, chop, chop. Let's get moving out here. Quick, quick, quick. Rat, stat, move your feet. If you want to see any pictures a little longer, just let me know. 3 P's of defense. A couple guys said, you know, in 10 years, you do things slide. Pride, pursuit, and passion. I said to Coach Chris, was it pride, pursuit, and passion? He says, passion, where the hell did you get that? We know it's poise. And by the way, Norris Thomas has a speaking business, right? Norris, what is the name of your business?
Pride, poise, and pursuit.
How about that? I did, in order to make this come out this way, I put poise last, but it should be in the middle. Everyone's. the 3 E's of defense. A couple guys had E's in there. So Chris must have said it, effort, enthusiasm, emotion. His 3 favorite players. You know who his 3 favorite players were over the years? You guys all know. Mike Bright knows. Mike? Who are they? Sam, Mike, and Willie. Can I tell that story? Mike says to me, I really am still embarrassed about this today, he says. First team meeting we had, he said, I came in, what town were you from? Stratford, small town guy. He said we played a 52 defense. We had a right side linebacker, a left side linebacker. Chris is telling him about how important it is to be ready to play. The first game, the first meeting on the chalkboard, he writes his 3 starters' names down. Sam, Mike, and Willie. I said, he's already got his starters picked. Why should I even work that hard? I know I came from a small town too, but. A few more sayings. After the Washington-Jefferson game, those guys are a good group, and they're not champions, too. You always have that little thing in there. The reporter said, where was your heart when that option pass was in the air? And just as Chris says, right there. Right there. Very unpretentious. Did we ever find this out, though? By the way, now this came from you fellas. We're not going to try to pin this down tonight. Probably shouldn't go there. I did clean up the language in that one a little bit. There was another one. I don't care if he's uglier than a Rick Shire block. Well, reading today's paper, I found out that Rick isn't so ugly after all. Hassler, you've got to do a better job than that. How much you weigh anyway? And Paul would say, what do you want me to weigh? Then this came up from a couple people, so it must be true. Oh, by the way, feel free to get up, get a beer, whatever you need, fine. He said that Coach was a math professor, very brilliant math professor. And this was passed on. He said a couple people wrote this down. And in one class, the student said, could you work this one problem out for us? I'm still confused. Chris worked it out on the board. After some time, there's the answer. And the student said, but that isn't the same answer that's in the book. And Chris replied, on occasion, your book will be wrong. And it probably was. A few more specific sayings from Coach Chris. Let's get these suckers. Well, now, you see, what qualities did Coach Chris possess that made him successful for so many years? And this is in your pamphlet, all the you look those over on your own sometime, fine, but I did pick out a few. He was a hard-nosed lunch pail guy. I like that term. He had expectations and knew you were capable of meeting those expectations. Just about any man on that team would go through a wall for him. And he'd go off. He was tough, but he cared. He knew everyone's name from the 3rd, 4th, and 5th string players. Despite coaching for many years, he stayed modern in strategy and technique and was always willing to learn or try new things. Of course, we know that Coach traveled around to different places, clinics, workshops, so on campuses, various other football programs. He never got overexcited. He stayed calm and cool. He gave you the feeling that he was very wise and confident. He had complete understanding of the X's and O's of football. He had a true love for his players. Paul Hassler. Pretty eloquent there, Paul.
Not that for Flag Day.
His knowledge of the game, relationship with players, and his ability to communicate with everyone. He loved the players and looked up to each game as a challenge, especially the annual challenge of stopping UW River Falls. Boom. He had great respect for those who played the game, and he always knew what buttons to push. John Janke. Great competitor. Great character and honesty. Dedication, toughness, competitive nature. There was a rumor floating around that his wife was always beating him at cards. Once Chris realized he couldn't win, he wouldn't play her anymore. Or so the story goes. You gonna verify that, Laura? Or that's But once again, that brings out his competitive nature.
Red,
Red. We got an audible, Chris.
what I want to know is who said that?
That was just an urban legend. It was an urban legend. That was it. Just kind of came up, and I thought I better, because this could be strictly hearsay. There's probably no truth in it. Is there any truth to this, Chris? No. Okay. Well, I just want you to know that was kind of floating around. So that statement there is false. So this would be. Help me out here now. Is Harley here? He couldn't make it. And, no, Pellegrino? And he couldn't make it either. So that's too bad. Memorable sayings from the coaching staff. Amazing coach, they remembered a lot of things from Coach Tony. We'll get into that a little more. Catch, cap, and lock. Very good. Coach Martinez. Must be a receiver thing, huh? You guys are a nightmare. Make sure your grades are good. Don't come to me with 1 D and 4 Fs. You're spending too much time in one class? Whoever said that? Coach Harry. You guys are really grabbing ass today. Oh, Coach Terry, we're perfect so far. It's an old Eskimo trick. What's that? Coach, do you want to explain this one? There are a lot of people who really don't understand this. I can remember a few games when I was coaching on the sideline where my butt cheeks got pretty tight.
I do remember one game when it was really cold, and I don't know if I should even mention this, but we were up playing up in Eau Claire. Do you remember that ball game?
Well, no, we don't want to go there. No, we're not going there right now, Coach. Okay. A few more memorable quotes and moments. There are over 1 billion people in China. We'll never know this game took place. Trying to relax, you fellas. Who was that? Coach Tony? There's the big Russian. Coach Tony, Hassler, if you don't gain some weight, we're moving you to wide receiver. This isn't your little baby here. I gotta keep kicking this. Coach Tony, Johnny, let's go get him today. John Janke. Where's John? What was that all about, John? Nice and loud for us.
Coach Tony and I just always had a little ritual ever since my freshman year. We always met right outside the locker room, outside underneath the stadium, and we just had a special handshake every day before every game. And I always get pretty bent out of shape my whole life when people call me Johnny, but he was one that always got away with it. I don't really care.
Let's hear it for Johnny. 1, 2, 3.
Johnny, what did we do last week?
It worked the last 2 weeks, too.
Last 2 weeks it worked, didn't it?
Was it back in '85? We did this and we did that. Anybody?
Very shocked Mel.
Another one? Squeeze it, squeeze it, squeeze it.
Shock Mel.
There you go. There it is. I'm assuming you're talking about defense here, right, Coach? Coach Fager didn't make it, did he? But somebody remarked about him throwing that big orange ball when he wanted you to move his feet. Your feet, offensive lineman, was trying to cut you down. And then, of course, his cold weather gear. Remember that? Coach Carl's shorts. Nice picture of that forward body lean, not finishing the run. Who is that anyway? Richard. Is Eric here? No. Well, I never heard from him. Is he still around? Does anybody know? Didn't hear from him at all. This I thought was significant. Who do you consider the most underrated and unrecognized member of the team? This should be someone who played a critical role but received little recognition. 25 different answers. In other words, nobody got more than like 1 or 2 votes on this. So it's indeed a real team effort. But some of the responses that you might find of some interest, Tom Osteen, he kept us loose. Right? Brian Anthony were great leaders. Knut isn't here. Is he Knut Brian? Wayne Reniker, great effort. And then, of course, he missed the playoffs. Is Wade here?
Angie's representing.
His sister's here.
His sister?
Angie.
Let's hear it for Angie. Where's Angie? Okay, there she is. 1, 2, 3. The offensive line, you know, they don't get much recognition. The scout team, the reserve guys who were pitching in. How many guys were on the scout team that year? Went on to play more later, but there you were banging heads with some of the finest juniors and seniors out there. Mike Tabor, when he stepped in at tight end. Of course, Tim Berg manning up on the quarterback in that last game. Greg Davison always scored high in his line blocking. Didn't get a lot of recognition. Frank Zagrodnik. The whole team played together. So, worth reading. As the offense drove for the nail in the coffin score, you could feel the emotions running high. As we broke the huddle with the ball on the W&J 1-yard line, things felt and looked pretty good. However, we fumbled and the Presidents recovered. Obviously, the O was a bit dejected and frustrated as we left the field. But how our D reacted exemplified our team's will to win. They were all positive and supportive as we passed each other. I specifically recall Mike Bright saying, "Hey, don't worry about it, offense. It's no big deal. We'll get the ball back for you. Good drive, we'll get that." Hey, that was our attitude. Jason Jenkins. That's what it's all about. It's your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude. You want to fly high in life. It's all about that old PMA, that high degree of belief and confidence in ourselves. Attitude. Now here's a fellow who needs no introduction because he knows who he is. It's Jason Jenkins. What are you going to talk about, Jason?
Well, Coach kind of screwed up my speech because he just put off the main part of the speech I was going to talk about, so that's kind of old news now.
Well, you can elaborate.
I can elaborate, but the other part of it was I looked on the program there and I was a little bit surprised because he called me up and said, "Now Jason, you play wide receiver?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you know a lot about the D-backs and you want to mess them every day in practice." And he said, "We'd like you to put together a little piece on the greatness of Scott Amy." And so I spent a whole lot of time. And sure enough, it shows up on the program. It says talk about teamwork. And here I thought I was supposed to highlight one guy. Scotty, I'd give you those notes if you want. The background on what was just up is just, like I said, there was 2 things that really exemplified in my experience that season what this group of guys is all about. And Mike, like you mentioned, Mike had been around a little bit, and those guys, there was a few guys that were a little bit older than us. Mike, Jim, was Jim able to make it today? Jim has got to be pushing 50, I think. About Jim, I didn't tell you this during the game because I wanted to say it, but I felt pretty good about how I looked until I heard some lady talking to my brother and she mistaken me for you. So, Sorry, Jimmy. Anyway, Mike Bright was a guy that I really looked up to because my first year here in La Crosse, I didn't play football, and I remember one of the first games. I think it was the first game I was at. Norris, you probably remember this because I think you were playing also. And Whitewater was on the 1 yard line. They had, I think, first down on the 1, if I recall correctly. And on the 4th down, the guy had a clear shot to the end zone. I mean, he was just going to walk in. He had a full head of steam. Mike met him by himself and drove him back to the 2 or 3 yard line. And just, to get an opportunity to play with him in '92 was pretty neat. And I thought that comment when he came on the field, the whole defense came on the field. And from time to time, you had some animosity between the offense and defense if one side wasn't playing well. We just never had that season. And that just exemplified things, I thought. So as far as the teamwork and things go, a lot of that I think we attribute, of course, to the coaching staff. Coach Chris, it was a neat experience to be an offensive player and have you take over because we didn't get a chance really to hear a whole lot from you. And like Coach mentioned earlier, we were a little nervous about what kind of offense we might run with you taking over if we just take a knee a few times and punt and hopefully we get a safety. That's how, he's not here to pick on anymore, but I coached with Ruffy, who better known as Shempy to this group. It took me 2 years of teaching with him to get away from calling him that, but I swear to God, the guy doesn't want us to ever play offense. He's just like you. He just wants the ball. He wants the ball in the other team's hand. He's really more comfortable when they have the ball. But it was really a special opportunity to play when Coach was running things, and as has been shared, he was a lot more. He wasn't quite as gruff as he seemed to be, I guess, because we didn't get a chance to meet with him. I'm sure the linebackers, everybody can attest to that. So. I guess want to really thank everybody for showing up, and it was a great opportunity, or it is a great opportunity to get together and see everybody. And the other thing that I thought was kind of a neat example of what our team is about. Coach Herring always talks about family, and we were truly a family that year. I played here for 3 years and coached for another year, and I don't think I've ever been a part of a team, and I don't think I'll ever will be a part of a team that was truly more of a family than this. Everybody who's here, you look around and see faces and you think, man, I haven't talked to some of these guys since we left campus, but at the same time, if I needed something, I wouldn't hesitate to call up any of the guys that I see. And Tom Osteen, again, here's a guy that you don't expect to be real sentimental. Defensive guy who I didn't get to see a whole lot of during practice and so forth. But we're walking out. A game got switched to Ames, Iowa at the big Iowa State Stadium. We're all there, obviously. But on the Friday before the game, I was pretty nervous. These guys had a real good defense. They were supposed to knock us off like pretty much everybody else was that year. We weren't expected to do a whole lot. And to give you an idea of the family mentality, we're walking out to practice, and somehow I happened to be walking next to Tom, and he just looked at me and said, hey, Jenks, you a little nervous? What's going on? I said, oh, Tom, I just really want to win this game, and I don't know, they're pretty tough, and he, a lot bigger than me, of course, then. He's not much bigger now. Tom put his arm around me and just looked down and goes, Jenks, we're going to win this game. And I said, Tom, I hope we're going to win. How you sit down? He goes, Jenks, there is just no way that I can envision not going to practice with you guys on Monday. We're going to win this game. And I just thought that kind of gave me a sense of relief and a sense of confidence. And like I said, those are the two things I thought really kind of exemplified our squad. So thank you very much, everybody, for what such a great opportunity, because it's just something that we all talk about a lot, and not very good, I guess, at closing things up. I do, though, want to thank a special group. There's a lot of the parents around here, and it was neat to get to know the parents of the guys they played with. And I'll name a couple that I've gotten to be especially close with, the Ghanaians and the Klings. I've gotten to know very, very well through football, and it's just a neat opportunity. And I want to put a special thanks out to my dad, because who would have thought that a guy who never won a high school football game would have an opportunity to become a part of this and a national championship. Thanks.
Jason's always got that little smile going. Attitudes are certainly contagious, and that's one worth catching. Say, by the way, Black River Falls won again last night, 7-0 they are, and from what I hear is that with any kind of coaching, they should run to win the state championship. Keep it up, man. Little off the field activities. If you were in a brawl, I know not nobody ever was, but let's say if you were in a brawl in college, who would you want on your side? Women, please understand, this is kind of a male thing, you know. Jason. One person said that. If he wants the response, he can talk his way out of it. One vote for Jim Anthony. Oh my God. Experience. 4, Paul Hassler. He was a tough asshole. 4 votes for Mike Bright. He could cover my back anytime, somebody said. Canute Bry had 4. He had training as a Marine and was dirty and physical. The top 3, 5 votes for Dave Bauer. He was powerful and determined, as you can see by that look right there. Second place, with 9 votes, Tom Osteen. He always brought his junk. And the number 1 guy you would like on your side if there was a big brawl that broke out. Oh, there's Tom Osteen. Looking good, Tom, by the way. Sorry about that. Looking good. The number 1 guy, Rick Shack. He could really kick butt. I kind of cleaned that up a little bit. So, Rick, we have a special presentation. If you come up and get your award. His favorite towel is a big demand for the articles. We've got a couple more articles. If you haven't seen the article, I'd like to get it signed tonight. He is here. So just, we got those out. Do you have enough? Yeah. Remember now, I'm an old guy. Don't get it. Okay. But there was a day. Greg, I just want you to know, there was a day, and I could hold my own. It was my second year out of college, wasn't it, Holly? What was your favorite lacrosse establishment for nighttime refreshment? One thing I figured out about this group, they were well-traveled. When I was in college, a buddy of mine opened a place called the library. And I kind of liked that because you could always write home and say you've been spending time at the library. But the library isn't as popular as it used to be. Only 1 vote for library happenings, Alpine, Howie's, Casino, Helmut, Dell's, Sneakers, and the dorm room. Brett Harper pointed out that he wasn't old enough to go downtown, so he would have to just stay in his dorm. 2 votes for the House of Pain, Legends, and Shooters. 3 votes for Yesterdays and Brothers. Johns, 4 votes. Champs, 14. And number 1, the Red Lantern. Let's have a moment of silence for the Red Lantern. Well, we all enjoyed being around Bernie and all the pictures he had up of lacrosse football. How many of you had a blast off with Bernie? How many of you actually got behind the bar and had an opportunity to play the bottles? That was, I have to admit, I did that one time. Remember the little toasts that Bernie had before he had down that blast off? Could you believe how filthy they were? I was trying to think of one I could share with you. I don't think this one's too bad. I love the girls that do, I like the girls that don't. I hate the girl who says she will, but then decides she won't. The girl that I like best, I'm sure you'll say I'm right, is a girl who says, I should, but honey, just for you, I must. You had to be there, you had to know her. What a guy. Who was considered to be the best ladies man on the team?
Rich Jackamar.
Yeah, well, people got some votes here, right? You know, there's an expression, taking it to the house, and you know where that got started. But anyway, we had to disqualify Dave Bauer, because Dave has got a great reputation around Seymour, at least. Having a lot of honey. Every week he's got a new one on his arm. You never know he's going to do well. Let's get back to the voting now, as it came in. Rick Schaub had one vote. Now this is the truth. Rick, by the way, voted for himself.
I can't believe no one else did.
Brett Harper, Brett had one vote. Of course, he was only a freshman. He was spending all the time in the dorm room. Really get out to steal. Matt Anderson, one vote. Andy, nice job, Andy. And he didn't vote for himself. Jeremy Richter, one vote. And now here's where the votes start gathering. 3 for Norris Thomas. Scotty Eamon.
What?
Jim Anthony, 5 votes.
I was 10 years older than all the girls.
Jason Gagnon, 7 votes. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the best ladies man on the team, as perceived by the team. So women, that really doesn't mean anything. Was Ben Murray. Ben Murray, we have a special presentation. We're serious about it. Went to the bookstore and I said, well, I need an award of some kind. So they came up, I said, for somebody who's a sharp dresser, they said they came up with a lacrosse sweatshirt for him. And I met Ben's wife earlier, and I'm telling you, like most of the football players, he definitely married over his head. The bookstore also gave me about 15 or 20 coupons for 20% off for some clothing. So if you're going to buy any clothing while you're in lacrosse or some other trip, 20% is a pretty good chunk. So I'll leave those on the table up here, and if you'd like one each, please. Feel free to help yourself. Few comments that came along with this. That was Rick Schaub. A no-brainer, somebody said. It was Ben Murray. Norris and Murray thought they were, but I'll go with Gagnon. The entire offensive line. Anyone other than the offensive line. He's there for real. Jim Anthony thought he was. Scotty Eamon wanted to be, but Jason Gagnon knew he was. I'm sure it was someone who touched the ball a lot. Norris Thomas, he used to comb his hair in the sideline. It must be an urban legend. This team was the most selfless group of talented people I've ever been around. Jason Gagnon. Let's bring him down. The quarterback, Jason Gagnon. Yeah. As I've heard also the best karaoke singer in the hall.
All right, thanks, Coach Collar. My wife just reminded me not to ramble, and after being here, coming in last night, we went out, and I got to tell you, I could stay up here for hours. There are a million stories to be told. Coach Collar asked me to talk a little bit about recollections or reflection. And there's so much to reflect on. Tremendous stories, things that I think we're going to have to say for John's Bar, Jim Antoni. I had an idea, maybe we could pass the mic around a little bit and have somebody, tell your favorite story, or if you feel remiss leaving without hearing something in front of everyone. But that might move into a crazy direction. So we get down to John's, the stories will fly. What I decided to do is just talk about the great plays from 1992. I haven't seen any film. I've looked at a few old newspaper articles and just kind of compiled them from there. So if you wouldn't mind putting your hands together for each of these individuals or groups. In my mind's eye, these were the great plays. Some of these guys, when they were here, may have gotten a clap, maybe they haven't. So let's put it together for them. Did I just say that? All right, number 17, John Janke out of the backfield versus Point with 2 minutes left on the clock to seal the big first victory. Ready? 1, 2, 3. That was a game that, as I was looking through these articles, we were behind in a lot of games in the fourth quarter, and quite frankly, I don't know how good we were, but we wound up putting it together at the right time. Number 16, the offensive line versus Eau Claire had 519 yards, no sacks. In fact, I don't know if I had any sacks or hits all season, so they were a tremendous group of guys in that game in particular. The offensive line. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Number 15, behind 12 to 17 with 7 minutes left versus Point. Eric Richards went 47 yards to give us the lead. Eric's not here, but let's give him one. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Down by 7 with 5 minutes left. Wade Rineker making a great catch against River Falls to tie the game. That, again, coming from behind early in the season. Wade's not with us, but let's send one his way. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Craig Dreesen picking off 2 passes at Central Iowa. One of the many great games that he had all season. Craig, 1, 2, 3. Number 12, Tim Berg's 47-yard interception versus Central that put us at 14-3 in the fog. And to be quite honest with you, from our sidelines, I had no idea what was happening. So it turned out that it was an unbelievable play by Tim. He's not here, but let's give him one. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Number 11, Jason Janke's 175 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns versus Central was one of the biggest individual efforts that I've ever seen. He was spectacular the whole year, and it was hard. I could mention his name in every game, but 3 for Jason. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Scotty Amons, 2 picks versus Mount Union in the end zone. Truly spectacular. One of the most vivid games that I've ever been a part of, and his play was absolutely spectacular. Number 10. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Number 9, the defense forcing 7 turnovers on a virtual sheet of ice in, again, a game that was completely unbelievable. The defense definitely deserving of a clap. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Number 8, our entire offense in the first half of the Mount Union game with 54 total yards to their 319. Not too bad. For the offense. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Number 7, Rick Schaff rumbling for what seemed to be 90 yards, scoring a touchdown and promptly throwing the ball back to Mount Union sidelines to use on the next drive. For Rick, ready? 1, 2, 3. I did get a chance to listen to the guys calling the game on Monday, and when Rick did pick it off, I think it was at like the 15-yard line, and they said, Rick Schaff makes an unbelievable catch. He's at the 15, the 16, and the 17. He could go to the 18. He's to the 19. He could go to the 20. It seemed like it took forever, but it's a truly spectacular play. In fact, I couldn't believe my eyes when he threw the ball over there. Number 6, the best catch that I think I've ever seen made was also in that Mount Union game. Jason Janke getting smashed between 2 defenders, cracking his ribs, stealing the ball from the defensive back, picking up 17 yards on a 3rd and 15, and moving the chains when you needed it. completely exemplified his style of play. Completely unbelievable. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Number 5, Mike Tabor recovering the onside kick versus Mount Union to seal the victory, which was called the Miracle Game. Again, almost surreal for Mike. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Number 4, Paul Kling, burning a defensive back for a touchdown in the national championship game and making a wonderful catch and getting our offense going. For Paul, ready? 1, 2, 3. Number 3, Ben Murray, making an over-the-pile fake on 4th and goal, allowing an easy bootleg to score. One of those little things, looking back at the film, that was very vivid in my mind's eye. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Number 2, Norris blocking an extra point and taking it the distance for 2 points, which eventually turned out to be the difference in the national championship game. A spectacular individual effort and tremendously important in what we had achieved. For Norris, ready? 1, 2, 3. And finally, Tim Berg defending the Washington Jefferson's quarterback, the throwback pass with no time on the clock. If he's not there, we wind up losing. For Tim Berg, who's not here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Those are the PG or the vivid reality things that I remember from the season. I haven't visited them very much in the last 10 years, but I do have to say that it's wonderful to see everybody here, the families, like Jason had mentioned. The coaches, one of the things that I just wanted to say is I missed Coach Herring's retirement. We were out of town, but the class, the respect, those sorts of things that you share with young people, I think really are the important things that we have done as a team and the things that we've learned to take on. I know Fritz Leinfelder is here, and Dennis Gadel and some of the other student coaches that were there at the time. And again, they were just selfless people who gave their time and had tremendous class. And to say that I was a cog in the wheel, I guess, is one of the most proud things that I've done so far. So thank you very much, Coach Collar. Thank you for putting this together, and we'll probably share a few more stories tonight.
Some great recollections there, Jason. And as I recall, you also had a pretty fair quarterback, didn't you? Great competitor. He worked line camp. Raj had him selling T-shirts or something, whatever it was. What was he doing at line camp anyway? The kickback. See, I understand that it almost cost you a forfeit for the national championship game because of the cookies, those end zone cookies, because those were not equally distributed to all teams on campus. So there could have been an investigation there.
No, it was because Chris had eaten all the M&M ones. There were
not enough M&Ms. I do want to recognize Mike Daniels, too. Mike, would you stand up, please, right here? Here's the man who was responsible for many of these improvements around campus and upgrading things, and I just think he's done a great job at his position improving this campus. My wife and I walked around last night, and many of the cubby holes that we used to get into when we were on campus are no longer there. It's just a great place. It's so much lighter now at night. I don't know what we would have done, in those days. Of course, that was before the days of the co-ed dorm. Boys town over here and girls town over here, and never should they meet. Okay, let's not get into that. We must be in the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter, big plays and memorable moments. You just heard them, so we'll go through this a little bit fast unless somebody wants us to slow down. What play or plays are most memorable to you? Of course, we all remember that one. And Rick, that run gets longer and longer all the time. I was at that game, and honest to gosh, I was cheering and yelling and screaming, and even my buddy with the two artificial legs, he was standing up. And then when he threw the ball at Mount Union, as a coach, I thought, what the hell is he doing? That's going to cost us 15 yards on the kickoff. Doesn't Raj have any control over those guys? But it maybe just fired us up that much more, right? So somebody wrote down the entire Mount Union brawl. Coach Terry, this is a good one from John Janke. Coach Terry calling his famous late first half spread trap versus Central Iowa. And the entire team tackling me at the line of scrimmage. Coach Terry's still here, do you have to leave it? Coach, I think you left just in time. You can see that was a bitter note. Scotty Amon's one-handed interception. Ben Murray getting knocked out blocking. Jason Janke's circus catch, we heard about that. Against River Falls, they blitzed everything. And I remember blocking one guy, plus sharing a guy with Canoe. He also had a guy. They ended up sacking Jason. At half, Coach Terry chewed on us for allowing a sack on a four-man rush. We looked at the film, and it turns out they rushed 7. That's verified by 2 guys. You can see the pride in the offensive line coming out on that one. On a televised game against Eau Claire, I ran a 3-route on a 7:39 pass, and Jason threw a perfect strike right in front of the TV crew. I stretched out and dropped the ball. Although I've come a long way with counseling, I occasionally tense up at night thinking about that play. Lloyd Renninger. There's that beautiful stadium. Many great plays, a lot of them on defense. And of course, the architect of that famous Crosse defense, when things would really get tough, he would reach into his pocket of tricks and he'd come out with a special play. Coach Crosse. The final drive of the championship game, second down, if Bucky doesn't hit the quarterback before he can get the pass off, my guy scores a TD. I'm a GOAT for life. Jim Anthony. The second half of the Mount Union game was nothing but a street fight. It just showed the versatility of this team and how we covered each other's back. And the most special moment was the day Coach Herring told me I would be suiting up as the Wildly Starter. So often we forget about the role of special teams and all the special guys. I can't help just a quick, short, brief story. One of the most traumatic experiences I had, I think, was in 8th grade when I just started football, and I had to go down to the local store in Portville where you knew everybody, and I had to buy an athletic supporter. And I walked in, this is when they waited on, and here's this beautiful senior high girl, senior in high school, Barbara Motor, behind the counter. And I walked up and I said, I need an athletic supporter. And she turned around and looked at it and said, you need a short, medium, or a long. Of course, it wasn't small, medium, or large. She didn't know that. I said, short, medium, or long. I said, long. So I came home with that large at about 28 waist. Cost $1.75. My dad said it's a lot of money to spend for such a small investment. I don't know why that came up with that quote. What player plays? Here we go. 92 yards and a dump pass, the first playoff game, and having called back. And of course, the infamous fumble. The Friday before a game at Ames, Iowa, I was walking to practice. Here it is. I admitted to some nervousness about the game. Tom put his arm around my neck and said, Jason, don't worry, we're going to win. See, I saved that one for after your presentation, Jason. Another very touching story. There's one that I'm sure no one remembers but me. Against Central in the playoffs, we called for a fake punt. The first time we ever called in a game. I was supposed to throw the ball to one of the fly guys. It always worked in Friday's walkthrough, of course, without any defense out there. So I looked at the fly guys, they're both held up, so I took off running for my life. Fortunately, I made a first down. We already had by 14, so I doubt that anyone remembers. But Matt does. My interception in the championship game, I'll never forget Bright and Zagrognik picking me up and helping me celebrate. Jim Rusham. I'll never forget the day before the championship game, ESPN was videotaping our mugshots. Everyone was making funny comments and having a great time. One of the camera people said, you guys are going to win because you're so relaxed. Quite the prognosticator. And perhaps my favorite comment, can you imagine this one? Traveled to Whitewater for my first time to suit up at an away game. Tom Osteen looked at me before the game with his eye black all over his face, grabbed my jersey and said in a loud, intimidating voice, did you bring your junk? Most memorable play was blocking the extra point in the national championship game to keep a 4-point lead. Thank you, Norris. Red Harper. Last play of the championship game, I was blitzing the quarterback and missed the tackle. As I was laying on my back next to Rick Schaff, who must have also been on his back, I heard everyone else screaming. We weren't sure if the wide receiver caught the ball or if we knocked it down. We soon found out we won the game and the championship. Very end of the Stag Bowl with the pressure mounting, I can remember having very lucid thoughts. I felt intensely dialed in on every play. There were maybe 10 or 11 plays after we turned the ball over, and I remember every one of them like it was yesterday. 15 years of sports boiled down to maybe 5 minutes of pure energy. I'll remember them to my dying day. Jeremy Rick. 67, back to 67-yard touchdown run from a tip pass, leading the band, and just hitting people in the mouth. The memories will never be forgotten. What's this with leading the band? And of course, we're down to the final 2 minutes. 2-minute drill before we go into the overtime. And I think it's time that we bring up Norris Thomas for a few comments. I know he knows how to start a speech. Remember Norris, great guy on the field and off the field, all right?
Hey, well, they said I had about 5 minutes to do this. And it's like sort of, you ask the speaker to speak, or you ask, like asking the preacher not to preach, but this won't take very long. I was asked to wrap this up, but I have to go, in order to wrap it up, I have to take you back to the beginning for myself. And Mike Wright touched on some stuff because we came here at the same time, but for me, it all goes back to a phone call that I got while I was a senior at Milwaukee South. They had this guy call me from Stevens Point, and I'd already decided to go to Crosse, so I took the phone call. It was a black guy on the phone. You know, I guess they figured, well, we can get him up here. So we got to talking. I'm listening to him, and he says, you know, you should come and this and that. And I said, you know, hey, but what about lacrosse? What's that lacrosse like? And this is indicative of how many people enjoyed that hit out on the field today when that helmet went rolling. Was that not lacrosse? Well, it goes well with what this guy told me that night on the recruiting phone call. I said, so what about lacrosse? He said, man, lacrosse is cold. He says, those white boys can hit. I said, well, I'd rather be the hitter than the hitty. So, you know, but I found out, once I got here on campus, I found out why that defense was the way it was, and it's attributed to that man right there. And we'll get a chance to bring him up in just a minute. But I wanted to share some special things about Coach Chris. And, you know, I echo everything that has been said. It's just amazing to read that, and it just echoes everything that I thought about. But there were some things that were special to me. First of all, my freshman year, like Mike said, we were 5-5. We were terrible. But I remember right before the River Falls game, we were in that classroom over there, and Coach Chris, it was like one of my first games that I suited up as a varsity player, and he told this story about when he was younger, and how he had to go out and milk the cows, and sometimes the cows wouldn't give milk, and he said he would just punch that cow in the head. So we were terrible that year, I'll be honest. And he sat there that day. It was the most powerful speech I'd ever heard to that point, probably still to this day. He had a tear in his eyes, and he says, boys, I want you to go out tomorrow and I want you to punch that cow. That was my freshman year. My sophomore year, we got a chance to play in the national championship. And this just goes to the difference in Coach Chris, that he wasn't always this tough guy that you thought he was. Yeah, he was tough, but he was a sensitive man. Our sophomore year, we lost the national championship in '88, and I got beat for a touchdown with about a minute or so left. And you know, we had our meeting going into my junior year. And Coach Chris, I thought, you know, Norris, I want you to come over here and meet with me, and come over to the office and talk to me. I walked in, and I thought, and walked up, and before I walked in the room, I walked in the door, he got up from behind his desk and he opened these big arms, and he wrapped me in those arms and said, you know, we're sorry. And, you know, but he wanted to let me know that I was okay, that everything was going to be all right, and lacrosse football was going to be all right. Junior year, I found out how brilliant of a man he was, a great thinker, a great instructor. I took his math class that summer before senior year. Brilliant man, an educator. Everybody, there wasn't a person in that classroom who did not understand what was going on. In fact, there was an Asian girl who I know she didn't speak any English because we were in the same study group that summer, but she understood, she knew. And I would ask her, I says, how do you know what's going, how do you know what he's saying? How do you know, I just watch his numbers, I watch the way he does it, and I come here and I do it the same way. And that was my junior year. Going into senior year, the most memorable thing as I take this timeline is this. I still have my notes, my meeting notes from my first defensive meeting for our 1992 championship year. Right here, I hung them on my mirror that year. And when Bill Carl asked me to come and wrap it up, I said, there's no better way to wrap this thing up than to understand and help everybody else understand that before Coach Herring ever went down, Coach Chris had already molded us as winners. It all started with this: pride, poise, and pursuit. And that's right, I did. I named my speaking business after this, the 3 Ps. It's the glue to every speech, every presentation, whether it's 50 people or 300 people. This is the glue to 3 Ps because it works. It worked for us that day. It's had a lasting impression on my life. You talk about pride, poise, and pursuit. You talk about winning, but even beyond that, we wanted to play well. And he had also already set the tone for what our goals were that year. And we all know them. What's number 1? Win the conference, make the playoffs, win another national championship, an undefeated season, and we wanted to win the conference on defense. We were winners. We were champions before Coach Herring ever went down. And that's a tribute to that man right there. Every Friday, we used to get an opportunity, guys. Every Friday, an opportunity to rub on that dome. Now, I didn't shave my head just for that. I do have a head full of hair, but it's hot in Phoenix, Arizona. It was 110 on Thursday. Juice. But we're gonna get some juice. We're gonna do a breakdown. We're gonna get a beat the presidents, and we're gonna get a juice. And the man of the hour is gonna come up. So let's go. Everybody on your feet, get in the ready position. Let's go. Let's do this. Here we go. Everybody else. You guys know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, join along in spirit. All right, here we go. Ready, ready, ready! Ready!
What a great tribute to a great man. Thank you so much, Norris. This is the Norris little brochure he sends out about his speaking. He shared a copy with me, and in here he mentions pride, poise, and pursuit were the 3 Ps that were first introduced to Norris as captain of the University of Wisconsin football team. While in their quest for a national championship, his defensive coordinator stressed the 3 Ps throughout the season. It goes on and says it very, very nicely. Coach Chris, let's hear it one more time.
Do I need that? Yes. I do. Too bad.
Hold it close.
Hold it close? How's that? I had instructions, let's put it that way, to hold this thing in under 5 minutes. A lot of the things that I was going to talk about are already talked about. So I feel confident that Collar and Herring will be satisfied with the length of my presentation. I do want to tell you all that in 10 years, that's went like that. But during that 10 years, you know, there's been a lot of times where I thought about you guys. Almost all of them were good thoughts. There were some bad ones in there, but most of them were good ones. Even though everybody else has talked about these things, I want to reiterate them for you because I believe that these are the building blocks of life. I really do. For those of you who have never been involved in football playing or football coaching, I think there is a great relationship between football and life. It really is. I really believe that. I believe we stress, somebody mentioned it up here, I don't remember who, but we've always stressed the idea that you got to work hard, you got to play well. And I'm not sure where I got the 3 Ps from. I don't really think that I stole them from anybody. I think I made them up, but I don't think I need to patent them or anything like that. Collards already used those, and Norris used those. But the idea of pride, poise, and pursuit, I think you got to be proud of who you are. That's one thing that I always try to stress, or we always try to stress. I also think that it's important that you say we. I don't believe in this I stuff. Football is not an I game. It's a we game. So sometimes I make a mistake and I say I. What I really mean is we. It's not me. It's not one person. It's all of us. I think you gotta, when things don't go right, you gotta keep your voice. It's so easy, and I'm bad at this sometimes. I go down. I probably shouldn't say this now, but I'm going to. I've already got started, so I'm not going to say it. I'll be driving down the street, and some dumb cluck will pull in front of me or something like that, and I really don't lose my voice. I feel like getting out of the car and going over and shaking my fist at that person and so on. So I'll have to admit that there are times in my life when I do lose my voice. I have always tried not to lose my voice on the sideline. I've tried to keep my voice up. And pursuit, pursuit is, you think of that more as a football thing, but you ought to find out what the heck it is you want to do, and then pursue it. If you decided to see what you want to do with your life, well then don't be wishy-washy about it. You just got to go ahead and pursue that dream. I think you all know that on the 8th of January, I had 4 bypasses. They repaired my heart valve and put in a pacemaker. They did that all there. And as I told somebody earlier today, I swear, I'm not making this up. I swear that I was coming out of anesthetic and I heard somebody say, well, he is almost 75 years old already. He's good for another 75. I believe somebody said that. I think that I'm going to live to be at least 100. All right. I believe it. I'm not, as somebody else said here, I'm just not blowing smoke. I really believe that. As I said, I've thought about you guys often. I think the reason why we were successful was that you bought in to the idea of being unselfish, doing what you needed to do for the good of the team, not yourselves, and that's why we won. I don't think there was a single game that I can think back. There was not a single game where there was any doubt in my mind that we were going to win the doggone game. I really felt that we were going to win them all. I really believe that. I know I've tried not to bring in too many names, but I still remember Mike Wright up there at River Falls, he wasn't too happy with my decision to go for the tie. Now, that was back in the days when you didn't have to play off, you didn't have to play off ties, you know. And again, there was no doubt in my mind that when that doggone guy kicked that football, he wasn't going to make that. And I don't know if there's the power of suggestion or not, but I'm sure that I made the plea, if that's what you want to call it, to whoever is up there, that that ball had better fade to the right, and by golly, it did. All of the things that you guys have talked about, I think about every last one. It was a great run. I do think now Norris kind of took away my stuff, but I think I would like to do one more thing, guys. I think you all ought to come up here, and we ought to have a juice. Right here, right
The things we did.
I didn't get my hair cut today, but you can look the top of
Fritz,
Hey, we'll go.
Fritz, we're not ready to do this again.
Presidents. Okay? Well, you guys didn't leave me that much.
Get in there tight, guys. Get in there close.
Okay, who's got the ready right now? Ready right now. Ready, ready, come on!
And thank you so much, Coach Chris, for those words of inspiration. Great job. Yes.
Everybody keeping score, did I get another 5?
Excellent. Holly? How are we doing? Anything else? Anybody else want to bring something before the group? Caroline?
Gotta say red.
You want to stand right up here? Okay. Caroline?
I don't know whether you guys remember this or not, but after the game was over, you were all having that picture taken under the goalpost. And the band members, the 25 band members that got on the bus on Thursday, drove 24, 48 hours, whatever it was, all the way down to Florida, got off their bus, played while you guys got on the buses to go over to the field, played for the game, and then at the very end when you were standing under this goalpost having your pictures taken, they played We Are the Champions. When I heard that on the video, I cried last week. I thought that was one of the most moving things. And then those guys, those 25 band members, which I'm sure you guys gave a raft of shit to all year because they were just in the band, they drove all the way back. And then they were back here when we got playing when we got back. So I think that was a really exceptional athletic feat that they accomplished. But I think having them play We Are the Champions, which they learned the night before they left, and practiced on the bus as they were coming down, was really, I think, a special thing. And I don't think there was much of a dry eye of anybody that was down there that day. I thought it was really a neat thing for the band to do.
That was a raft of what? Chris called an audible, so we had a couple other comments.
One thing that I forgot to mention that nobody else has, and I think all of you guys, you know me enough to know, that I don't really pick on people, I really don't do that. But I think one of my memories about that game was we were in the playoffs, we went down to Iowa State, and played down there in the fog or whatever the heck that was. And after the game, we got on the bus and we sat on the bus, 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 and we sat on the bus.
Come on, that's so
And
wrong.
by golly, you know, after we sat, you know, I was kind of exhausted. So I sat there and I wondered, what in the world's happening? You know, why are we going? So I got off and I went into the dressing room there, and I'll be doggone if Shaft was supposed to give a little urine, and he couldn't give any. We sat and waited, and finally they said, forget it, go on home. That's one of my memories.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. Appreciate that.
Did somebody punch that cow?
So let me get this straight here now, Chris. For the 20th reunion, we can count on you to speak, is that correct? Judge, okay, so I just want to make some notes here. And, okay, 10 years from today. Last quick story about Chris. I just have to tell this because it made quite an impression on me for the rest of my life. If you look real closely, just a minute. Because you gotta hold off just a minute. If you look real closely, because I think I know what he's gonna say. If you look real closely at me, you'll notice my ears stick out quite a bit. And this left ear sticks out a little more than my right. I'm a little asymmetrical. The reason I am that way, Coach Chris, here's what happened.
This is true.
We're playing up in Eau Claire. It's extremely cold, below zero. I'm the offensive line coach. I know I gotta wear a stocking hat or something on my head because I don't have much circulation in my ears, especially out at the end. They're real flimsy, you see. And I know they're gonna be frostbitten unless I do something. But I know Chris won't let me wear a stocking hat because he had to be tough on the sidelines. So I got to thinking, you know, this is back in the 60s. Jean-Claude Keeling. Remember him? The skier. He wore one of those little ski bands around his ears. I thought, hey, that's kind of macho. I'm going to wear that for the game. So I got one of these ski bands and I put it on, you know, around my ears so they felt pretty good. We're doing our pregame warm-up, and I'm getting into it, you know. All of a sudden, here comes Coach Chris. What's he doing down here by the offensive line? He comes up to me, he says, Collar, you look so damn cute, I want to kiss you right in the lips. I tore that ski band off and threw it up, and that's when I froze up my ears, believe me. Well, Chris, I hope I still look as cute as I used to. And we want to thank everybody for coming. I don't know if anyone, if I missed anybody. It's been a fun evening. At some time, this program has to cease.